All right, so this morning, welcome. Amanda Keller is going to be presenting on the meaninglessness of work. I am excited to hear this. She actually is the CFO in training over at Homes Oil. My husband and I own Homes Oil, so we were talking last night, and Jeremy said, I hope that's not how she feels about work, so I'm interested to hear what she has to say and how this goes. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I will let you know I'm very nervous. I don't talk to peers. I was in education for 7 years as a teacher, so I can talk to a 16 or a 17-year-old, completely own it, feel in my element. Talking to people I see as equals is pretty intimidating for me. But I want to start off just when Chris asked me to come in and be a part of this mastermind, I looked at him and I laughed and I said, what do you think I have to share? And so I'm sure once he saw this, he probably was second guessing why he actually asked me to come in. Why would I want to talk to people about their work being meaningless? So like I said, I just want to give you a little background of who I am. The first and foremost, I want to put it out there because you will hear some of the undertones in this message, and I think it's a big part of who I am and what I believe and kind of what drives me. I am a believer and follower of Jesus Christ, and so you are going to hear some gospel undertones in this message. I'm not here to evangelize you, but like I said, it's going to kind of just paint the picture for what I'm talking about. Some other background, I'm newly married. In September, I got married, and with that inherited 2 little stepsons, Gray and Wyatt, and then we also have 2 dogs at home now, a new puppy as well. So my undergraduate degree is from Duquesne University, and it's in finance and investment management, and then I worked in the financial services industry for 3 years at BNY Mellon in Pittsburgh. From there, I got my teaching license from Ashland University and decided to go into education and taught accounting and entrepreneurship at North Canton Hoover High School for 7 years. And then I came back to Holmes County and was the treasurer for East Holmes local schools for 3 years. And then, like Irene said, have just transitioned to Homes Oil, where I am the CFO in training, working with her mom actually to take over when she's ready to retire. So that'll kind of set the stage for why I have any sort of credential to be speaking today. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe I do, but hopefully you'll get something out of today's message. So we are going to be talking about the meaninglessness of work and why we experience it and what to do with it. So to get us started, like I said, I was a teacher, so we're going to need some engagement today. Laughing is okay, smiling is okay, nodding is okay, and we're going to need to raise some hands, okay? So you don't have to look around. If you actually want to close your eyes, you can do that too. This is a safe place. So to get us started, how many of you have ever wondered if you're actually in the right job? Awesome. Okay. Have you wondered, is there any meaning to my life? Yeah? Okay. What are we doing this for? Okay, or why is there so much wrong in this world? Amen, hallelujah. And then how are we going to deal with this? Okay, so a lot of us were raising our hands throughout that. And so it's easy for us to see that one time or another, we've all experienced this sort of restlessness with our lives and the current role we're in, or maybe it's a role that you've been in previously. Robert Bella's book, Habits of the Heart, identified expressive individualism as the thing that's eating away at the cohesiveness of our culture. He argued that Americans had created a culture that elevated individual choice and expression to such a level that there was no longer any shared life, no commanding truths or values that tied us together. The sacredness of the individual is not balanced by any sense of the whole or concern for the common good. Then toward the end of his books, he makes a proposal that's immensely going to help us rewire that unraveling of our culture. To make a real difference, there would have to be a reappropriation of the idea of vocation or calling, a return in a way to the idea of work as contribution to the good of all and not merely as a means to one's own advancement. So as a premise for that, okay, Timothy Keller is the founding pastor of Redeemer Presbyterian Church in New York City. He is someone that I have been following and learning from for a very long time at this point. But in his book, Every Good Endeavor, he looks at this rewiring in the workplace. And so I'm going to use this book for the basis of this conversation today, because like I said, I don't necessarily feel like I am wise enough or know enough to be sharing from just my own experiences, but I know I am wise enough that there are people wiser than me that can teach us. So, in one of his opening pages or opening quotes, he says, "Nothing within this world is sufficient basis for a meaningful life here." Excuse me. If we base our lives on work and achievement, on love and pleasure, or on knowledge and learning, our existence becomes anxious and fragile. Because circumstances in life are always threatening the very foundation of our lives, and death inevitably strips us of everything we hold dear. I don't know about you, that doesn't sound super encouraging, right? There's nothing here, okay? So, like I said, I'm going to use this book, and he's going to argue against this and why we actually can find some meaning in our lives, some meaning in our jobs. So I'm not really talking about the meaninglessness of work, but I will address it. So we're going to look at three things. We're going to look at how work was designed. Then we will look at our problems with work, and then our hope for work. And so my goal at the end of this is that we can actually see when our work is meaningless, and what we can do with it to find that meaning again, and maybe change that mentality, even if the job really isn't for us, but can we change that mentality to make it meaningful? So starting out with our plan for work. I'm hoping that as I keep going, my voice will get less shaky, so let's hope that too. Okay. So from the very beginning, we were designed to live in this constant state of work and rest. I think we all can recognize that we actually need some rest. But when we hear that we were actually designed to work, that may sound kind of foreign to us. So often we think of work as this necessary evil, or maybe sometimes even it's a form of punishment from the fall, right? So how many of us have actually thought of work as a necessary evil? I have, right? I got to pay the bills. I need to do this. I need to do this. What else am I going to do? Okay. But Keller argues that work is as much of a basic need as water, food, rest, your friends. We need it. And when we don't have meaningful work, we actually will experience some significant loss and emptiness. And we see that when people are cut off from their jobs, they can no longer work from some whatever physical constraint, whatever is going on in their lives that has removed them from work. We often see them feeling that they're missing something, okay? They feel emotionally or physically or spiritually disconnected. And I think work is just one of the ways that we are full or fulfilled and able to make ourselves useful to others instead of just living that life for ourselves. It's how we discover who we are and come to understand the unique abilities and gifts that we have. Now, with that design of work, there's also limits to work that we all need to understand. The things that we do as we rest are good, okay? We kind of have, especially in America, I think, have this mentality that rest is no good. I need to keep go, okay? But the things that we do when we rest are good, and that work is not all there is to life. Like I was saying on that last slide, a lot of us view work one of two ways, that it's a necessary evil, and that the only way to find meaning in life is when I am able to rest through leisure and then time with family and friends and some other pursuits. The other view is that work is the only important thing in our life and that rest is the necessary evil. Okay, generally we fall in one of those two fields. But I think we all know that work is not the only thing to this life. And Keller argues you will not have a meaningful life without work, but you cannot say that work is the meaning of life. If you make any work the purpose of your life, you're going to create an idol for yourselves. And even if that job is the most noble job that there is, okay, it will end up selling you short. Joseph Piper is a 20th century philosopher, and he wrote an essay that argued, Leisure is not the mere absence of work, but an attitude of mind or soul in which you are able to contemplate and enjoy things as they are in and of themselves, without regard to the value or their immediate utility. In our fast-paced world, we tend to view everything in terms of efficiency, value, and speed, okay? But he is arguing that we need to slow down and simply have the ability to enjoy the most simple and ordinary aspects of life, right? Enjoying it for what it is. Enjoying Rise Spaces because it's this beautiful space that we can just come in on a Wednesday morning and have coffee and listen to someone who's nervous beyond belief as she just struggles through this, right? Like, just enjoy that for what it is, and I need to enjoy it for what it is because I have this opportunity, okay? Finding just the enjoyment for things as they are, not because it can make me the next biggest dollar or make a name for myself. So, hi friend. One of the ways, I want to give you a quick example. A lot of people laugh at me because I try to find joy in the smallest things. When I was a treasurer at East Homes, just over here, Bunker Hill over here, the administration office, I had a door out the back of my office and there was a farm behind us. Whenever the horses got close enough to my door, I would stop what I was doing and would walk outside and try to pet them. And my staff would just laugh. They're like, "You're ridiculous." And I'm like, this is a moment for me to find joy in a job that is very challenging to me, where I can just go out and enjoy that I'm here, right? I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. It's exhausting. It's taking a lot out of me. But there are these beautiful horses that I can go pet their little velvet nose, take a moment, and then come back. So finding the joy in life for the little things just for what they are. Now, I don't want to give us a biology lesson on the body, but I think we all know that our bodies need rest. I think we all know when we don't get enough rest, sleep, downtime, we have a hard time keeping going. So when we deprive ourselves of that, we're actually contributing to earlier decay. Our bodies start breaking down. Our bodies start screaming at us saying, "Hey, you need to do something." Speaking from experience, if you don't address that, your body will, right? And it's going to come to a screeching halt. So there are limits to work. We need to be able to take a step back and truly enjoy that leisure time. So I know that work is very frustrating and exhausting at times. And often we think we just have to endure it to get through. Let me just push through this. I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for my friends, right? But with that, it's also easy to be thrown in that opposite direction where all we think about is career accomplishment, thinking I have to make the next biggest deal, right? And because we crave affirmation and validation, we then start to overwork, okay? So we're either enduring work or we're craving that confirmation and affirmation from everyone around us, and so then we start to overwork, okay? So a lot of us sometimes will actually try and get our life's work done early so we can get to retirement early. So our mentality becomes, let me get this done because then I can really start living. Another way work was set up, and designed is that all work has dignity. Caring for and cultivating this world has worth, even if it means we're just cleaning the toilets or taking out the trash. This means that secular work is no less dignified than the sacred work. Work of all kinds proves our dignity as human beings, whether we're using our hands or we're using our minds. It's what distinguishes us from animals, right? Now, you could absolutely argue that a colony of bees, they all work, right? They all have different jobs within their colony, but I don't want to split hairs here. I think we can all agree that our work as humans takes us to a different level of dignity than an animal, okay? The material creation we're called to care for is good as well. Therefore, the work we do to care for it is good, regardless of what we do. No everyday work is going to lack dignity, nor is it too lofty to actually transcend the purpose of work. So dignity, the dignity of all work is another premise of work and why we work. Work is cultivation. This world was created in such a way that we need to work, okay? What would our world be doing if none of us were working? We need to work, okay? So we're actually given a job to develop and build our society. We're to bring forth the world's riches and potential and to develop that potential, to cultivate it. We're not to be park rangers and to make sure that no space is touched and we're gonna leave it just as it is and protect it, nor are we supposed to just pave over everything, right? We're supposed to rearrange it, to make order out of it, to make it its most fruitful, to draw from all the potential of all the different areas and develop it. We need to bring order out of that chaos. That's what work helps us do. So whether we are splicing a gene, doing brain surgery, hosting weddings, building buildings, designing buildings, writing contracts, selling campers, okay? All of that is going to help us cultivate the world. All right, so we should be focused. I'm gonna then move to work as service here, okay? All of us are equipped with different talents and gifts of different kinds to build up that human community. So I just pointed out a couple of things that you are doing to contribute to building up our community. Okay, so with that, our focus should always be on working in a way to serve others. So when we choose our jobs, when we choose our work, we should be asking ourselves, how, with the abilities and gifts that I have, am I going to be of greatest service to others? Okay, so the problem becomes, though, as we start out nobly, thinking about wanting to serve others and provide a service to people, it quickly becomes clouded and we start to serve ourselves, right? So the problem with serving ourselves, I think we all know, gets in the way and it becomes all about us. So when this happens, we become aggressive sometimes because we're focused on us, we're not focused on others. That aggressiveness can turn into verbal abuse in the workplace. Our drive can lead to burnout. And our self-sufficiency can turn to self-loathing as we internally feel like something's not right here, but yet this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm looking out, I gotta look out for myself, but we feel that something is off. So when we decide to serve something beyond ourselves, okay, we have a better reason to actually deploy our talents and gifts, okay? Meaning we're gonna be more successful when there's a better reason, okay? One of the main ways we're able to serve others is through our competence. So that means that you're going to do the job as well as it can be done. You're not going to just go through the motions. So if you're the custodian at Berlin Elementary, it's not going to be enough to just show up, get the job done with the least amount of effort, be nice to your coworkers, be nice to the kids, go to church on Sunday, drink on your back porch, don't drink on the front porch, right? But rather, your goal should be to make those hallways sparkle, right? So through your competence, you're actually going to be serving others. All right, so highlights there. Pause. All right, so how work was designed. Now let's look at some of our problems with work and what happens. Get this great picture of what it's supposed to be like. So this is what actually happens when we start working. So work becomes fruitless. Okay, I think we've all experienced that. And when we choose to live for ourselves, things always work backwards. Okay, poet W.B. Yeats says it this way: things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. Okay? There's this state of unrest. Okay? And I think at some point, we've all kind of experienced in our jobs, maybe in our family life, we feel like something is off. And maybe it's shame, whatever, but we just can't put our finger on it. Okay? That deep restlessness can take a lot of different forms, such as guilt, striving to prove ourselves. We need someone to acknowledge me, to see me, right? Maybe it's rebellion, the need to really assert our independence and say, my gosh, I'm gonna take care of this and people are going to see me, right? Because then I won't feel so uneasy. Or maybe it's just the need to please others. Another way that we see this restlessness manifesting itself is in developing mistrust and fear of others, okay? This obviously is going to lead to friction and anger in our relationships. And so when we're working with people at work and they're trying to help us, when we have this state of restlessness, we might be thinking, is this person really trying to help me? Or are they really just setting me up to fail, right? okay? We almost get stuck in this state of moral schizophrenia where we don't know which way is up, okay? So we're aware that there might actually be a problem with us. So we can't deny our own brokenness, but yet we can't acknowledge it either, okay? So we're just stuck. So in his book, Keller says this, and I think it just really hit home for me. So companies assemble teams to work furiously for months or years to give birth to new products or ventures, which may die a quick death in the marketplace. Star football players often suffer the effects of injuries throughout their lives. Brilliant entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs get thrown out of companies when times get tough, and few get invited back. The weeds or the computer viruses or the corruption scandals come back with a vengeance. Research into the properties of the atom becomes the basis for the atomic bomb. In other words, work, even when it does bear fruit, it's always painful, often miscarries, and sometimes kills us. Okay, so I think all that to say, we need to expect to be frustrated in our work. There will be times that our work will be fruitless, okay? And that doesn't necessarily mean we're in the wrong vocation, we're in the wrong job. So just because we can't realize our highest aspirations within our role doesn't mean you are in the wrong place. Work will be fruitless. But what we have to do while we're in those moments is hold on to those little glimpses that we see of a flourishing world, of the little glimpses we see of our work doing something, okay? Don't allow ourselves to ricochet back and forth between the idealistic workplace and the cynicism of the workplace, okay? Find those little moments and hold on to it and accept that work will be fruitless at times. And here it is. I know it probably should have been a lot more of a center point, but like I said, I just really wanted to capture you with this title here of the meaninglessness of work. So one of our other problems is that work does become meaningless, okay? So even when we've been able to realize our potential and become successful, we still lack fulfillment and satisfaction, okay? I think some of us have probably experienced that, like, I'm pretty successful, I have a great job, I have all these things, and yet I still feel something is missing, okay? And that's because work by itself cannot deliver a meaningful life. We all want to make an impact and have personal recognition for all of our hard work. We want to make a difference in our fields, and we want to do something that betters the world. I believe that is innate in all of us. And we've all probably sensed that satisfaction or sense of accomplishment at some point. But the problem becomes is that it's really all for nothing. It is meaningless, right? The person who takes your job after you're gone is going to change it, probably. Maybe they'll do it better. Maybe they'll do it worse, but they're going to change it, okay? They might undo everything you've done. Now, there are some people who have made lasting impacts in this world, but eventually that too will go by the wayside and it will be forgotten. So if life here is all there really is, okay, even if your work is not fruitless, you do have fruit, it's pointless, right? It's meaningless if it's all that there is. That's pretty dark and dreary. Oh, okay. So, because it doesn't last, work here on earth is meaningless, okay? The other problem with that, it begins to alienate us from others. It takes away our joy, especially if we get into this cycle of like, what am I doing it all for? Okay, we have little hope then for the future. So we might become so fixated on success and achievement that we start to isolate ourselves, making that job our idol, our salvation. And so when you don't reach that highest peak that you aspire to, that becomes devastating and maybe even soul-crushing for some of us, okay? Think about also the injustice and just the depersonalization in some of our social systems that infect the way that we work, okay? We see it throughout. People get stuck in low-paying jobs simply because a job needs done, but there is no way out for them. How hopeless would that be if you're a factory worker where your only job Poop, Tyler.
Oh, man.
Hold, please. This is great. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. If your only job is to put a bolt on a piece of machinery that moves on down the line, you never get to see the fruit of your work, right? What's the point? Okay. Even as we look at our complex organizations and corporations that are just massive, I believe top executives probably even have to start to wonder at some point what the point of their work is. As a business becomes so big, it's probably going to be very easy to lose sight to actually see what your work is producing. Another way we see some alienation in the workplace is with our friends and our family. Work can absolutely convince us that we are working for our family and friends, when in reality, it's just seducing us to neglect them. Oh, okay. So furthering our meaninglessness of work is the danger of choice. Okay, we have a lot of choices out there. And recently, a Stanford professor held this online discussion with recent graduates. And they all he was able to conclude that most of them wanted 3 kinds of jobs, these high status jobs: those that pay well, those that directly work on society's needs, and those that have the cool factor. Okay, they struggled to see the dignity in all kinds of work. So because of that, they felt very limited in their choices, right? They felt paralyzed. They didn't focus on choosing work that fit their abilities, but instead of work that would boost their self-image. And this set them up for dissatisfaction and this feeling of meaninglessness, because they weren't choosing work the way they were designed to choose work. So, full disclosure, I struggled with this meaninglessness of work. When I was deciding to leave education entirely, I really had to wrestle with this. It's like, I'm gonna leave education where I'm serving the community, where I'm pouring into children and truly helping them in their lives, and I'm gonna go work for a for-profit entity. I really struggled with that. Like, I was definitely prideful about what I was doing. And so changing my mentality and saying, okay, what are the ways in work I can still have a meaningful job, even though I'm not directly serving children, right? So how do we choose well if we have so many different choices to choose from? We need to choose work that we can do well. It should fit our gifts and our capacities. We should be able to cultivate ourselves and to search deeper within and to really find that hidden potential within us. We should choose work that benefits others. And this may look different for everyone in seeing how it benefits others. So the individual themselves needs to work out what that looks like. So for instance, my husband is in insurance. He's great at what he does. He's rolling his eyes at me. Okay, but he truly believes that insurance serves the world. He makes a difference. Yes. I, on the other hand, think that insurance is a big pile of poo, okay? And that's okay, but his work has meaning, even though I don't see it, okay? We're really working on our marriage and seeing the good in things. We also want to choose work that benefits work itself, our field itself. Okay, our goal should be to want to make a contribution to our area, to our discipline, to show a better way of doing what I'm doing, a more skillful way, a deeper way. Dorothy Sayers in her essay, Why Work, says, if you only focus on serving others, you'll begin to believe they owe you something or that you have a claim on them. However, if you set your mind on serving the work, then you know you have nothing to look for. The only reward the work can give you is the satisfaction of beholding its perfection. The work takes all and gives nothing but itself, and to serve the work is a labor of pure love. Gosh, if we could view our jobs that way, right? It'd be good. All right. Our last problem I want to talk about here is when work becomes selfish, and then we'll move on to the good part, okay? So when our work does become selfish, okay, we make it the basis for our identity. It's no longer for us a way to cultivate creation or to cultivate ourselves or to serve the needs of others. It becomes a way to set us apart, right? To get people to notice us and to say, I am special, right? It's a way for us to accumulate wealth and power and security and control over our own destinies. And we hear this preached to us all the time. Seize the day, you can do this, you are the maker of your own path, okay? And I'm sure a lot of us have fallen victim to this at times, or we know people that currently are. I know I have, okay? So often we try to take control and do it ourselves. We're gonna make a name for ourselves, dang it, okay? And we bulldoze our way through and ultimately get nowhere. Maybe you experience some success. Eventually you will fall, okay? So I believe that we do get our name from someone else, okay? Someone who has given us that name, has given us our worth, has given us our uniqueness, and that is from above, and it is only through him, okay, that we make a name for ourselves. So we either get our name or we make our name. So when we try to take things into our own hands, there's always going to be some natural consequences. Pride is one of them. It's one I struggle with a lot. We become prideful, and that, okay, never leads to anywhere good. It often leads us to some competition with others, some disunity within the workplace, and a lot of different strife. C.S. Lewis, in his book Mere Christianity, says it this way. It's a good read if you haven't read it. Now, what I want you to get clear is that pride is essentially competitive by its very nature. Pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. We say people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they're not. They're proud of being richer or cleverer or better looking than others. I never really thought of pride that way. I believe it to be true, right? It's not enough for me that I have a nice car, but I have a nicer car than that person, and that's what makes it better. Okay, so C.S. Lewis actually challenges us to build a better mousetrap. Not because we want to be better than the other mousetrap builders, okay, but we should do it out of our interest in excellence and service to the world in order to move our business forward, not to move ourselves in a position to look down on others, okay? And now I know that it's not possible for us to live entirely selfless lives. We're all humans, we're all sinners, we're all gonna fall short. But I think if we're able to take a step back and at least recognize that brokenness, that's going to help us lead a better life in the workplace. So how do we find hope within our work now that I've just looked at some of the problems, okay? How do we find that hope? One way to do that is recognizing that we are all in the palace, okay? Being Americans in Holmes County, like we have more financial and cultural capital than some of us realize. We are beyond blessed here. Now, some of us are using that to serve others. Some of us are using it to serve ourselves. Okay, but I'm here to tell you that there are people in this community that need us. They need our resources. There are businesses, organizations in this community that are crooked and that need our attention. You absolutely run the risk of slowing down your career advancement, running into conflict, okay, and hurting your career if you address these things, absolutely. But our goal shouldn't just be to be in the palace and then bend every rule there is just so we can stay there, okay? You need to do something. Are you going to be able to hold strong to your convictions, to your beliefs, and use your position to do good work? Not just for your sake, but for the sake of others, for the sake of doing good work. So unless you're using that position, your money that you're earning from being in a great place, in service to people outside of the palace, that palace we're in is going to become an actual prison, okay? It's going to be very natural for us to just root our identity in that position in the palace. I've made it. I'm in a great place. This is who I am, right? We're going to rest in that level of control that we have in that position, okay? But if we aren't willing to risk it all, the palace owns us. We really have nothing and no control. So recognize that you were brought to the palace, okay? You were brought here. You didn't earn it. Now, I'm sure you worked hard. Absolutely. You might be thinking, she didn't know me. You worked hard. You went to the right schools. You made the right connections, right? Absolutely. But you worked with talents that you did not earn, right? They were given to you. You went through doors of opportunity that you did not open. They were open for you. Therefore, okay, we need to focus on graciously passing on what we have been given and gifted to others. So, are we feeling inspired yet? Yes, Jason, thank you. Okay. Maybe a little nugget or two has resonated with you, okay? You're ready to start using that influence, not just for yourself, but for the good of the cause, for the people. You want to see justice done. I'm going to be more resolved in my beliefs, my convictions. I'm going to hold true to that. Okay, that's great. That's so exciting. Your resolve's not going to last. I think we're getting into a place where I think this is really why Chris asked me to come in and talk. Okay, your resolve won't last. If outside sources or examples are what's motivating you, likely you're just motivated by guilt. You're like, oh crap, I should be doing more, okay? It could be guilt about a couple of different things. Selfishness, maybe I'm too selfish. Elitism, I've made it too far, I'm not doing enough to help the poor. Ungratefulness, okay, whatever. But if that's the extent of your motivation, it's going to wear off, okay? So again, okay, she just said she was going to talk about the hope and work, and now she's, swatting us down, saying like our resolve's not going to last. This woman doesn't have it figured out. Okay, so how do we get our resolve to last? And I believe this is why Chris asked me to talk. Okay, how do we get our resolve to last? The answer is not motivation. Okay, at GapCon a couple months ago, I was on a panel and I said that motivation is trash. And I believe that, okay? We cannot rely, we cannot rely on motivation to keep us going and to keep us performing at our highest level. We just simply can't, okay? Because motivation is trash. It's just like a drug. It's gonna give us this really high, and we're gonna have and experience a really steep drop. Okay, and it's going to leave us searching for that next big high. What's the next thing that's going to get me through? And we're just left chasing one high after the other. I might be motivated 25% of the time. I feel like even that is a large number, okay? So motivated to get the job done, to parent 2 little stepsons, to take the dogs on the walk, to give my old dog all his medication, to go to the gym, right? To all the things. Maybe 25% of the time I'm motivated and feel good about that, okay? But yet I've still managed to be in a place in my life where I would say, I'm fairly successful, I do a fairly good job. And the reason I believe that is true is because I'm able to be consistent, okay? I believe that consistency plus accountability is where we will find success. So I want to break down that equation, okay? If we are looking for success before commitment, we're never going to find it. Never. Okay, so we'll talk about accountability first. We all need accountability. A small group of people that we can do life with, that we can be open with, that we can be vulnerable with. Okay? We were designed for community, and we need people that are going to speak truth into our lives in order to build us up and to push us to our greater potential. And it needs to be people that can speak the truth in love. I want to be very clear about this, though. Those two cannot be separated, okay? We cannot hear the truth from someone who doesn't love us. And I don't believe we can love someone if we can't be truthful with them. They go hand in hand. So, for instance, I want you to think about this. When I hear someone, we'll say, for instance, Irene, she says to me, Amanda, I believe in you, you can do this. I can hear that one of 2 ways. I can hear that as, she really does believe in me. She really thinks I can get this done. Or I can hear it as, well, shoot, she thinks I'm not doing a good enough job. She thinks I'm a failure, right? If I don't know her, if I don't have a relationship with her and truly know that she loves me and who I am and wants what's best for me, I'm not going to hear that message. I might just roll my eyes at her and be like, okay, right? So that's why the truth and love, speaking the truth and love, they go hand in hand, okay? So it's so important that we find people that we can do that with. Now, I do want to just challenge you, because there will be people that come into our lives that we don't know, that will try to speak the truth to us, okay? And I want to challenge you to take a step back and not just discredit them, but maybe try to hear the message, remove the emotion from it and say, okay, no, they don't know me, they don't know my story, but what are they actually trying to say here? Okay, so find that core group of people that we're going to be able to allow them to kick us in the rear end when we need it, but they're also going to wrap us up in their arms and allow us to cry when we need to as well. So if we alienate ourselves, like I was talking about earlier, okay, we won't be able to keep going. We're not going to be able to have that motivation to keep pushing forward. Gosh, all the Furmans just don't want to hear me talk. It's fine. All right, so the other side of the equation is consistency. Okay, how do we become people that are consistent? And I believe we have a consistency issue in this world. Okay, I believe the term young adults would use is that we have a lot of flaky people. Is that right?
It's probably something different. Sure.
I'll ask Lena. Okay. So I believe we have a consistency issue because we have a self-control issue. All right. Self-control problem is when we have something that we are doing that we desperately want to stop, but we just can't. We can't do it. Okay. We're looking at our classic addictions: drinking, drugs, alcohol. That would be drinking. Tobacco. It could be sexual addictions, overeating, undereating, trouble with our mouths, gossip, our thoughts, our emotions, our time. Okay? Our self-control will strip us of everything important. Our careers, our relationships, and maybe even our lives. All right? Practicing self-control is a discipline that, when fostered, can actually help change our character. So, what is self-control? A lot of people think self-control is all about willpower. Okay? So, for example, willpower would be if I go and get a gluten-free pizza, celiac disease, go and get a gluten-free pizza from Park Street Pizza, best pizza in the area, sitting here in front of me. And I'm like, wow, that looks amazing. There's no other gluten-free people around me. So I don't have to share with anyone. I can eat this whole pizza. Okay? Willpower is in my mind saying, okay, don't eat it. Don't eat it. You don't need to eat a whole pizza. Okay? But on the other side of that, my heart is screaming, yes! Get in my belly. I'm going to eat the whole thing. Okay? Just say no. Clamp down on those feelings. Don't do it. It's not my mind that keeps me from eating that pizza. Okay? I'm going to take this further. Think about some elite athletes. It doesn't even have to be professional athletes. Okay? It could just be some crazy fit person here at Equus. Okay? What is it that keeps these people going? What is it that keeps them from eating a whole pizza every weekend and drinking a 6-pack of beer? Is it because they don't want to? Because they don't want to go out and have a good time? No, they absolutely do. Okay, but they don't. And that's because they want the prize more. Okay, they want to reach their goal more. Okay, self-control isn't a matter of the will and being able to say no. It's a matter of the heart. What have you set your heart on? Okay, it's setting your heart on the higher thing, the right thing. And that's going to order all of our other feelings and our wants and desires. So when you set your heart on the right thing, you're going to be able to say no to all the other things. Thomas Chalmers says, "We only cease to be a slave to one appetite because another taste has brought it into subordination. A youth may cease to idolize sensual pleasure, but it's only because the idol of material gain has gotten the ascendancy. There's not one personal transformation in which the heart is left without an object of ultimate beauty and joy. Its desire for one particular object may be conquered, but its desire to have some object is inconquerable. The only way to dispossess the heart of an old affection is by the exclusive power of a new one. Okay? So self-control is not about your will to say no. It's about what your heart is set on. So let's think about this, okay? What are you most passionate about, right? What is it that gets you going? And that's probably what your heart is set on. Okay, let's say it's career success, since that's what we're talking about, work today. Okay, it's the main thing you've set your heart on. You want to achieve the highest goals, okay? You absolutely will experience some self-control in some areas, but not all of them. When you solely set your career, or set your heart on your career, okay, what happens when, if you tell the truth, it's actually going to hurt your career? Or what if you're given an opportunity to cheat and it's going to help your career? Okay? If career success is what you're most passionate about, in those instances, are you going to be able to tell the truth? Are you going to say no to cheating? Absolutely not. Okay? You're not going to be able to. And so then, as you start to feel your career slipping away, you're going to start losing control of your emotions. You're going to be quicker to anger because you're going to be fighting and battling to hold on to that. Okay? You'll be subject to anxiety and fear, insecurity even. Okay? Then you might even find yourself turning to something else because your career is slipping away and you have to have some sense of control. So you find a way to get something that you can control. Other obsessive behaviors that may be even labeled as good. Right, but you're just looking for that next thing. We know that if we set our heart on worldly things, we very well may lose them. Okay, the things that we know in our heads have got to be made real in our hearts. Through different disciplines of self-control and practice, okay, we may actually be able to see what we know in our heads trickle down into our hearts, and that's where we will find the self-control that we need. Holy cadoli. All right, let's land this plane, okay? So, I talked to you about our plan for work, okay, to be in this constant state of work and rest, that it's a basic need. We have limits to our work, okay? We need leisure time, we need rest. And all work has dignity, and that we should be using our gifts to create good. Talked about some problems with work, okay? The fruitlessness of it, the sense of restlessness we feel, developing mistrust and fear. We talked about alienation, the meaninglessness of it, okay? And the danger of choice, and how we can then choose a job when we have all of these choices. And then lastly, our hope for work. Remembering, we are in the palace here, okay? We need to use our positions to do good work, and while holding strong to our convictions. If we don't, this palace becomes a prison that owns us. All right, remembering we didn't earn our positions here, but we were given that, and so then we should graciously give on to others. Using accountability and consistency to achieve success. We need people in our lives to do life with, that we can be vulnerable with, that can speak the truth in love. All right, we also need some self-control, and that it's not a matter of willpower, but it's a matter of joy power. Okay, we need to move in our heads down, what's in our heads down into our hearts. For there, we will see some lasting change, and hopefully be able to kind of reconcile that meaninglessness of work feeling we get sometimes. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I don't have anything else, Tyler.
Do you have any questions or comments? Side remarks?
All are welcomed. Great. I hope you got a nugget. I would strongly encourage you to read this book by Timothy Keller, Every Good Endeavor. I feel like I just touched the surface on what he goes into, but it's really a great way to kind of connect our work to more meaningful endeavors. So, thank you.